What's going on, guys? It's Mitch from the Bottom Line View here to start my top 10 or top 100 series of the NFL for 2016. Now, I'm going to be doing an overall top 100 for the NFL going into the 2016 season, but I first wanted to do a top 10 for each individual position. Today, we're talking about the quarterbacks, the guys that handle the ball on every single snap. So here we go. This is the top 10 quarterbacks for the 2016 season. It's judged off their past season as well as how I think they're going to perform going into next year. At number 10, I have the steady, reliable, and fearless Phillip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers. He started 16 games last year. He led the Chargers to a 4-12 record. Now, that is not very good on the surface, but Phillip individually played pretty well. He had a good season overall. He threw for 4,792 yards, which was second in the league, 29 touchdowns, and only 13 interceptions with a 93.8 passer rating. Phillip Rivers had a good season. He's a good quarterback. He's a guy that I would want at quarterback for my team. It's just that his team overall was not very good, and he had a ton of injuries to deal with. He was throwing to 4th and 5th wide receivers on the depth chart. So overall, I think Phillip Rivers is still an outstanding quarterback. I have him at number 10 going into the 2016 season. Number 9 is the Giants' Eli Manning. The two-time Super Bowl champion started 16 games last year, led the Giants to a 6-10 record. I really didn't think that they were a 6-10 team last year, but they had a 6-10 defense. One of the worst defenses in the NFL last year, arguably the worst. Eli Manning still put up great numbers on the offensive side of the ball with 4,432 yards, 35 touchdowns, and only 14 interceptions with a 93.6 passer rating. His 35 touchdowns were second in the league, tied for second in the league, just one behind Tom Brady. Eli Manning had a really good year last year. He really only has one viable option in the passing game in Odell Beckham, and when he wasn't there, it was tough for him, and he struggled at times without Odell Beckham. But this year, expect the Giants to get a wide receiver, and I think Eli will be even better this year. At number 8, it's the breakout season for Andy Dalton, the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. Started 13 games this year. He did get hurt, which he probably might have been even higher on this list if he didn't get hurt, considering he had a 106 passer rating. That was at, I think, the tops in the league. So Andy Dalton had a really good year last year, and I wasn't even a fan of Andy Dalton before this year. He threw for 3,250 yards, 25 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. He kept his interceptions low, his touchdowns high, and if he would have started 16 games, I think we would be talking about Andy Dalton as having an even better year, and the Bengals potentially could have won that playoff game against the Steelers. A lot would have changed in their season, but I think going into this year, Andy Dalton may have lost some weapons. He may have lost his offensive coordinator, but he still has A.J. Green. Him and A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert, his two main options. I think Andy Dalton's still going to be viable and a very good quarterback in the NFL this year. At number 7, if it wasn't for his horrific playoff performance, Carson Palmer may be a top 5 quarterback going into next season. He led the Cardinals to a 13-3 record, to the NFC Championship game to play the Carolina Panthers. He stunk the joint up. But during the regular season, he threw for 4,671 yards. I think that was third in the league. 35 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 104.6 passer rating. Carson Palmer was at the top of every single passing statistic, and with that receiver core, I can see why. Carson is a good quarterback. He's in a good system with some good players around him. He benefits from that. That might not be why he's not a top 5 quarterback, but Carson Palmer still has all the tools. He's a solid quarterback, and 7th going into next season. Number 6, this guy puts up big numbers every single year. He's been one of the best quarterbacks for probably 10 years now. Drew Brees. He led the Saints to a 7-9 record. They did have the worst defense in the NFL, so he pretty much had to throw for 400 yards every game. Drew Brees has no problems doing that, though. He led the league once again in passing yards with 4,870, 32 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions. He had a 101 passer rating. He started 15 games. He did miss one game, so he probably would have even had 5,000 yards passing and still would have had a losing record. That is pretty amazing. The Saints had, like I said, maybe one of the worst defenses of all time in terms of pass defense. They were awful. But Drew Brees and his offense, they kept chugging along. Even missing Jimmy Graham this year, they still went out there and performed. Drew Brees is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL still. One of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL still. And still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going into the 2016 season. Number 5 is the gunslinger himself, Big Ben Roethlisberger. He only started 11 games this year, and that's one of the problems with Big Ben throughout his career. He gets injured often, but when he plays, he puts up huge numbers, especially the last couple of seasons. He threw for 3,938 yards in only 11 games, 21 touchdowns, and a whopping 16 interceptions, which may be why he's not in the top 4. But he got a 94.5 passer rating last year. Big Ben, one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch, a guy that can torch a defense any given week with a great receiving core. He's going to go into next season and light up the scoreboard as long as he stays on the field. Big Ben, in my eyes, is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL heading into next year. As much as I dislike the Seahawks, every time I watch them, I can't help but marvel at Russell Wilson's game. He's an all-around great quarterback, very smart player, and man, is he athletic. Russell Wilson led the Seahawks to an NFC divisional appearance, threw for over 4,000 yards, had 34 touchdowns, and a low 8 interceptions for a 101 passer rating last year. He also ran for just over 500 yards and 1 touchdown. So Russell Wilson is a dual threat quarterback, one of the best in the game at doing that and escaping pressure and hitting his targets. He can do it with pretty much any receiver, pretty much any offensive line. Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and just a great guy to watch overall. Russell Wilson is 4th on my list. Number 3 is A-Rod himself, Aaron Rodgers. Discount double check. Number 12 for the Green Bay Packers. He led the Packers to an NFC divisional appearance. He threw for 3,821 yards, 31 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions for a 92.7 passer rating. Aaron Rodgers did have a down year for his standards, but he's still an excellent quarterback in every sense of the word. He's still the guy that can escape pressure and throw a Hail Mary into the end zone. He actually did that twice last year. He's has the best arm in football, arguably the best touch on the ball. He is just an overall quarterback's quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is number 3 going into next year. Number 2 is the GOAT, number 12, TB12, Tom Brady. Tom Brady is only number 2 based off number 1, who is the MVP. But Tom Brady, I would probably pick to have going into next year. He threw for 4,770 yards, 36 touchdowns, which was tops in the league. He only threw 7 interceptions, 102.2 passer rating, and also 3 rushing touchdowns, and took the Patriots to another AFC Championship appearance. Tom Brady gets it done every single year. No matter who's at receiver, no matter who's on the offensive line, no matter how good his defense is, Tom Brady takes the Patriots to the AFC Championship or better. And Tom Brady is going into next year as the second best quarterback in the game. Number 1, you gotta hand it to the MVP, Mr. Cam Newton. As much as he has doubters and haters, he continues to prove them wrong. Cam Newton led the Panthers, maybe even single-handedly on offense, to a Super Bowl appearance and a 15-run record, winning the NFC South in the process. 3,837 yards, 35 touchdowns, which was second in the league, 10 interceptions, a 99.4 passer rating, 636 yards, which was tops for quarterbacks, and 10 rushing touchdowns. This guy had 45 rushing touchdowns, which makes him, in my opinion, just better than Tom Brady based on performance last year. Well, it will be interesting to see if Cam Newton can keep up his amazing progress as a passer and as an overall quarterback. It will be awesome to see how every single one of these top 10 guys performs next year. Let me know who your top 10 quarterbacks are heading into 2016. Again, I have Cam Newton number 1 based off winning the MVP, going to the Super Bowl, and putting up some great numbers. Number 2 is Tom Brady. 3, Aaron Rodgers. 4, Russell Wilson. 5, Ben Roethlisberger. 6, Drew Brees. 7, Carson Palmer. 8, Andy Dalton. 9, Eli Manning. 10, Phillip Rivers, with honorable mentions being Tony Romo and Andrew Luck because of injury. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's Mitch from the Bottom Line View. Peace out.